But welcome, everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the house barrage, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Being kind is the guys in this mess in the first place.
Put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello, and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. And wow, it's been a fucking week again. I mean, it's been a really rough week over here. I'm not gonna really get into it. People's privacy's involved and stuff like that. But everything's been very complicated and in depressing ways, and that's a pretty good microcosm for like how things are looking sort of societally as well. I've started drawing a comic just sort of randomly called La Gaviota Brava, and the latest one, it's in Spanish and English. Who knows, it might be in other things too later, but here's the latest one over on my Stabsuck. How is everybody doing? Okay. Well, I had heard about a wonderful, just truly non-whack take from Ben Shapiro, and I thought maybe we could start out with that. Apparently, he's a little bit miffed with Bill Burr and what Bill Burr had to say about billionaires, which... So we know that's
one of the big controversies of the weekend was Bill Burr. So I've spoken about Bill Burr on the program, and as I've said before, Bill Burr has completely lost the thread. Absolutely lost.
See, you can tell when somebody loses the thread because they say something that Ben Shapiro doesn't like. Like that's the only thread there is. The thread of Ben Shapiro's approval. It's like the thread everybody should lose.
So Bill Burr has decided, as a very rich individual who makes money by saying funny things sometimes. And again, this is coming from somebody
who... This is coming from somebody who makes money by just saying bullshit all the time.
Really enjoyed, for example, his Red Rock special. I think that he's done some really funny stuff in the past. And then he decided that he was going to go not just woke, but the wokest of the woke, on everything from race to...
I love this because... fucking Ben Shapiro's own viewers, who I don't think can be accused of being the wokest of the woke exactly. I think most of them are probably more sort of like the sedatist of the sedated or something. But they were, when he first started to go off on this thing about how horrible it was that somebody would gun down a CEO of United Healthcare, which kills people for money, and his own viewers were like, no, you got it wrong, Ben. I watch your show all the time. Love you, man, but yeah, we're all kind of happy about this too. And But he's still got to pretend. Let me just see. I'm going to look at his comments. Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, his comments are once again, like, just cooking him. His viewers are cooking him over this. But he's just gonna double down.
Economics. So, on his Monday morning podcast, he decided that he was going to sound off about billionaires again. Now, again, this is not his first rodeo on this particular topic. We talked about this a few weeks ago. He suggested that Luigi Mangione, who is the shooter of...
Well, I mean, the alleged shooter. First of all, he pled not guilty. Second of all, his lawyer has not seen anything that actually links him to the scene. There's a dodgy identification. There's a seriously dodgy arrest in Altoona. And that's not the only thing fucked up about Altoona. I mean, if you've seen their pizza. Let me just put it this way. Altoona is to pizza what Al-Qaeda is to fucking skyscrapers. And then you've got fucking Eric Adams' bent ass with the chief of detectives of the NYPD on fucking HBO showing crucial pieces of alleged inculpatory evidence to the press that the defense has not gotten to have a look at yet. I mean, which is, incidentally, the sort of thing that can actually potentially get the case dismissed with prejudice, because, but we'll see. I mean, we will see. But at the very least, we should not be just taking it as read that he did this on the strength of CCTV that wasn't at the scene, in a city of millions where there's probably more than one person who looks a lot like him. I mean, but yeah. But anyway.
Brian Thompson, who is the head of United Healthcare, who's the CEO over there.
No, he was, actually. I think you'll find.
For the murder of that guy on the street. Bill Burr had suggested that he basically had it coming because he ran a health insurance company.
And killed a whole bunch of people.
Well, now Bill Burr has expanded his critique out to all billionaires, apparently, according to Bill Burr, simply earning a lot of money in the United States.
Earning.
Or anywhere else. Means that you should be murdered.
Oh, you got a clip for us, Ben? Do we get to see him say that? I'm sure those are almost certainly his exact words.
This means that Bill Burr is both a moral and an economic idiot.
Wait. How is, okay, morally, we'll leave aside Ben Shapiro's moral standards. They're special. I mean, Palestinian children, Ben Shapiro thinks, it's kind of okay to just kill them by the tens of thousands. Insurance CEOs, not so much. That's a moral problem for him. I mean, he's got some real moral standards, has Ben. But economically, what the fuck is he talking about? Does he not understand growth? Does he not understand GDP? Each of those bullets had to be bought from a company, probably a small business, that creates jobs. That creates jobs for the forensics people. It creates jobs for the people who have to clean up afterwards. It creates jobs for the new CEO of UHC. Like, what are we talking about, Ben? This is great for the economy. This is growth. This is what brings up the GDP. And this is incidentally why GDP is a shitty fucking metric, and nobody should use GDP as, like, proof that an economy is good, because literally anything that increases the volume of transactions, of economic transactions in an economy, will increase GDP. But yeah, economically speaking, what Ben is talking about, that would create so many fucking jobs, though.
This is not actually how economics works.
Don't you want jobs? Don't you want growth? Aren't you an American for prosperity?
The way that you become a billionaire in a free market capitalist system is by generating
by being born into it.
New goods, products, and services at a price enough affordable that people want to get it.
Really? Is that how that works? to generate products and services, so that the billionaires, they personally go and they make the products and they provide the services, do they?
That is how you make a lot of money.
No, it isn't. I mean, that's like theoretically one way you can make a lot of money. I mean, Ben is making a lot of money and he hasn't provided anything useful.
Back in the old days of feudalism, the way that you made a lot of money is by robbing poor people and taking all their stuff.
Wait, that's not how feudalism worked either. That's like literally the point of feudalism was that the poor people didn't have anything to begin with.
And you had to do that to a lot of poor people because they didn't have a lot of stuff. And it turns out the people in those days who were rich actually weren't all that rich by modern standards. They didn't have any
okay,
modern conveniences. There was no one.
Wait, so the idea is like the fucking feudal lords and kings and emperors and motherfuckers in the Middle Ages, they weren't really that rich because they didn't have smartphones
Or anything like that. Okay, but billionaires of today, generally speaking, are billionaires because they created something that's awesome for everybody.
Really? I mean, it sounds like mostly it was awesome for them because they're the ones who are billionaires.
Bill Burr obviously doesn't understand economics. He doesn't understand morality either, because his suggestion is that if you, apparently, if you're worth $999 million, you're good to go. If you make $1 billion, you should be murdered on the streets.
Well, I mean, yes, that is a fundamental. If we take it as literally as possible, that is a ridiculous thing, and that is also why the billionaire tax that cuts off at $999 million always struck me as like, why is that actually solving the problem of the massive concentration of wealth when they're still they still have $999 million? Hey, River Rune.
The amount of people that are struggling out there because of these billionaires, and they got us all arguing liberal and conservative. We got to stop doing that. If you work a full fucking week at a job, you should be able to pay your rent.
I mean, really, why should you need to have a job in order to be able to have a place to live in the first place? Yeah, I would say
you shouldn't have to go out and get another job and still be struggling. It's bad for the country.
Wow, this is such a fucking radical take.
Billionaires, they need to be put down. Like rabid dogs.
I mean, see, you can say a lot of things about that, but that is not economic nonsense. Because think of all of the goods and services that go into making that happen. That would be a fucking GDP bonanza.
And then he added, they are rabid with effing greed and they're going out and dividing everybody. Well, there's certainly no...
now we get to hear the take of a guy who is one of the people who is paid by billionaires to go out and divide everybody.
No divisiveness I'm sensing from Bill Burr there, talking about how people should be, legitimately murdered for...
Wait, so you agree that it's legitimate?
Earning too much money in the United States. It's this sort
did he say that it had to be earned in the United States? I didn't hear him say that.
Of terrible economic analysis that leads to Bernie Sandersdom. You just say, in a free country, nobody should have to live on more than one salary. Okay, well, thanks for your statement about realities that you wish didn't exist.
Yeah, but I mean, that is about a reality that I think a lot of people, including, it turns out, Ben's audience, if you look at the comments on this video, things shouldn't exist, but that you aren't exactly refuting it. Why is it a good thing that people can't actually pay for their basic living expenses without getting a second job or a third one, Ben? Could you explain that?
Now, what is your alternative? Because it turns out the government ownership and redistribution of resources makes everyone extremely poor.
Really? That's weird. I guess he would have an example of that? Because that has not actually been how that works previously. Ja, also den Vorschlag würde ich gerne hören.
It turns out that massive tax rates, confiscatory tax rates, kill the very businesses that people need to work for. It turns out that high levels of government...
Also ist das Werk gemeinfrei? Denn das ist halt so, also das klingt interessant, das klingt durchaus interessant, aber ich muss aber auch aufpassen, denn ich kann im Rahmen dieses Projekts eigentlich nur Texte übersetzen, an denen ja keine Urheberrechte oder sowas haften. Denn sonst müsste ich dann irgendwelche Gebühren oder Tantiemen oder was weiß ich, Lizenzscheiße bezahlen. Und das wäre dann einfach unmachbar. Also da muss ich halt ein bisschen aufpassen.
Regulation and intervention in the real estate market tend to generate higher prices in real estate, including in rent. That's what rent control does, for example.
Wait, what did he just say rent control does? I completely missed it. I'm sure it was a wonderful take.
Out that high levels of government regulation and intervention in the real estate market tend to generate higher prices in real estate, including in rent.
Wait.
So rent control does, for
how? Okay, explain that. So how exactly... See, let's remember what rent control actually is. Guys like Ben Shapiro like people to think that rent control is much better than it actually is. First of all, let's assume that rent control is what he wants people to think it is, where they just say this is the maximum you can charge in rent for something. That doesn't increase the price because literally there is a limit on the price. Like East Germany, for example, they had a rent control system. They did have rent, but the rent was keyed to the property values on the books as of like 1935 or something. I don't know the exact cutoff year. And the result of it was that the rent was basically nominal. Like, it was not only stable, but it was basically, you really did not have to worry about the rent because it was just so little. Often, so were the flats. They had a constant housing shortage that they were always kind of trying to play catch up with. But, yeah, because the thing is, when you actually set a ceiling on prices, then the prices don't go up beyond that fucking ceiling. But that's not what rent control is. Rent control says if a landlord wants to increase the rent beyond a certain threshold per year, then they have to actually make improvements to justify it. And again, how that increases the prices beyond the permitted increase, he'll have to explain to us. I'm sure he's right about to.
For example, a misbegotten attempt to punish developers who are quote-unquote billionaires.
Really, it's about punishing. I would have thought it was about making sure that people can actually afford housing, which is kind of a thing that everybody needs. But, I mean, yeah, fuck developers, too. I mean, if we wanted to punish developers, I got better ideas than rent control.
By controlling the rent, and what you end up with is less production of buildings.
Yeah, but the problem, we don't have a problem with production of buildings. We don't have a problem with housing availability. We have a problem with housing inflation. Namely that it has been completely out of control, and it's treated as a good thing. You hear, like, oh, property values are going up. Well, what does that mean if you're trying to find a place to live, or if you're trying to, rent a place or something like that? It means you're going to have a harder time affording it.
The economy is dynamic. People like Bill Burr believe that the economy is static, and so billionaires are just taking a bigger chunk of a fixed pie. But that is
that is literally what they're doing, because at any given time, the pie is fixed. There's only so much stuff on the planet. Even if you make more stuff, you're just making it out of the resources that we already have. Some of that stuff regenerates over time, but it takes time, which means at any given time, there's only so much. And the thing is, when you're talking about, when you're talking about, say, income, when the distribution of income to a company, for example, only a certain amount is coming into that company every week or month or whatever. And that amount is being distributed between the owners and the people who do the work. every penny that goes to the owners is taken away from the people who do the work, and vice versa. Like this is just nonsense.
Not how the economy works. But where that shades over into...
No. He's going to explain to us how preservation of mass is not a thing. Conservation of mass, rather.
Truly evil thinking is when you start translating that into violence.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we have such a non-violent society as it is. I mean, there's nothing violent about what billionaires are doing to all of us. And Ben Shapiro, of course, that man is just such a pacifist. He is so non-violent. I mean, okay, yeah, I mean, likes to do, like, genocide and stuff like that. He's into mass murder. He supports the non-violent subway strangler, for example. I mean, a big opponent of violence, Ben is.
That billionaires, because you misunderstand economics, need to be killed because they're suddenly centralizing all the resources.
But they are centralizing all the resources, not suddenly, incidentally.
Name me the person from whom Elon Musk has stolen money.
Well, among other things, a whole bunch of African mine workers in Zambia, if I remember correctly.
Seriously, I'd like to hear the name of that person, so Elon Musk...
And all the people who work for him. I mean, he's stealing from all of them. He lives off of fucking surplus value.
Pay that money. For that matter, I would love to know.
And right now, he's kind of just stealing it directly from the federal government, since he's been given complete unsupervised, non-transparent control over the federal payment system, which just happens to be one of the main sources of his income.
From whom Bill Burr has stolen his money. Bill Burr has a net worth, apparently, around $20 million.
What does apparently mean?
From whom did he steal that money?
I mean, how did he make... The first question is that how that worked? How did he make it? My understanding, I don't know a lot about Bill Burr, is that he gets paid to get up on a stage and say pointed and funny things or something like that, and that is where his money comes from, not so much from exploiting workers. Though, of course, in capitalism, you're never completely outside of the circle of, like, exploitation of workers, no matter what you're doing. Everything you do is somehow going to connect into that eventually.
What's the cutoff for being a bad person? Is it like $21 million or something? It turns out that Bill Burr charges a lot of money for his comedy special. Shouldn't he give it out for free? I mean, there are a lot of working people who really like Bill Burr, and they now have to choose between paying their rent and getting a Bill Burr ticket.
Well, I mean, why not have the rent be the one to take the hit there? I mean, and let's just note, in places where there is actual, like, state subsidy for culture, tickets to something like a Bill Burr show are actually really fucking cheap. Because you've got, like, the local authority is kicking in some money, and the federal or national government are also kicking in some money, and maybe a regional council, and maybe the EU too. And so the result is that in a lot of places, say in Western Europe, for example, you can actually get fucking... Hey, Phoenix. You can actually get tickets to something like a Bill Burr show, or a play, or something like that. You know, cultural events like the symphony orchestra or something like that as well, for not a whole hell of a lot of money. Now, of course, neoliberalism exists, and so all that stuff is getting cut. So the result is it keeps getting more expensive. But, I mean, there's no reason that you can't have a situation where the person doing the performing gets paid and the people who want to watch it aren't, like, having to sacrifice huge amounts of money to participate in, you know, in culture, basically.
So, you know, maybe he should give away all of his product for free. Did you know that American Home...
Ja, also die Frage können wir eigentlich ganz leicht beantworten. Wie alt ist das Werk eigentlich? Wie alt ist dieses Buch?
Homeowners have over $32 trillion in equity. Criminals are targeting it with a growing scam the FBI calls house stealing. Scammers can transfer your title out of your name using a one-page...
Oh, this is his
Shop
ad.
and
We're not going to watch
then
that
they take out loans
shit.
against it, or even sell it behind your back. The most concerning part, you're not going to find out about it until collection or foreclosure notices start arriving in your mailbox, leaving you with financial and legal nightmare. The best way to protect your equity is with Home Title Lock's exclusive.
Yeah, fuck that. An alternate. I don't remember. Oh, wait a second. Is it the one where they, like, kick the shit out of Mr. Potter? Was Eddie Murphy in it? I remember this. It's like Dana Carvey is Mr. Potter, and at the end of it, he gets his ass kicked. There's also a version of it from the show, the Fry and Laurie show in Britain, where it's a Wonderful Life, but it's like Rupert Murdoch. And Rupert Murdoch is like having an existential crisis, and he's like, I wonder what the world would be like if I had never even been born. And it turns out the world would have been fucking amazing. It would have really rocked. Everybody would have been happier. Life would have been better. And he sees this, and he's so disgusted with how good life is for other people that he decides he actually does have to stay alive. John Lovitz is Mr. Potter. Yeah, that's right. I remember this. I saw that the original time. That is like that was during like the last time that I was even watching Saturday Night Live regularly. It's been easily since the mid-90s that I haven't seen
Hero 25. The reason this matters is because
you can tell this is important because he switched cameras.
I have a fear. Here is my fear.
I want to know what Ben Shapiro is afraid of.
The American body politic tends to pendulum from side to side. This is how you end up with Trump, and then Biden, and then Trump again. But
no, that wasn't from side to side. That's just the pendulum's fucking stuck. We've got, I mean, this is just all pit and no pendulum.
I think that the next pendulum swing, and there will always be another
pendulum. Who the fuck says pendulum?
Swing is going to be to the far left, to the economic populist far left, to people who agree with Bill Burr.
People, okay, so like the far left is where you say that maybe people should not have to work 2 jobs in order to have a roof over their heads. You made one mistake, Mr. Potter. You double-crossed me and you left me alive. I remember that. That was so good. That was good.
Is an economic downturn in any way, shape, or form? Because the American people have not been made aware of the realities of how economics works, because our education system has failed them completely on all of this. This sort of zero-sum ugly thinking.
Oh, wait, I mean, you wouldn't want to have ugly thinking on the Ben Shapiro show.
Is going to eventually gain victory in the United States at some point, not permanently, but at some point, because of all of the broken systems of education that have been put in place in this country.
Like, people understand about conservation of mass and math and stuff, and...
Because...
I mean, what's great is he did not actually explain what is wrong with any of these things that he says are wrong. He doesn't actually explain in any way what his supposedly correct way of thinking of these things is. He just says, yeah, no.
People have become so comfortable with the bizarre idea that rich people are stealing from poor people.
But they are.
Now, for the moment, it's really unpopular, and it should remain really unpopular.
It isn't unpopular, actually. I mean, it's hilarious that he keeps saying this. Because his own fucking comments, there's somebody actually in his comments saying, yeah, actually, Bill Burr's kind of right about this whole thing. You shouldn't need 2 jobs to be able to afford rent.
Popular.
And I just have to once again say, if somebody from Bill Shapiro, Ben Shapiro's audience somehow finds their way onto this VOD, you listen to this guy, okay? what he is doing, the reason he keeps on having these takes, these very specific takes that you don't like, that you think that he's just completely wrong about, and keeps on doubling and tripling down on them, is because literally his job is to use the worst parts of your like basest instincts to turn you against other people, other like working people, in order to help rich ghouls like himself and the ones who pay him. You are making yourself unhappy by supporting this asshole. He's never going to see reason on why it sucks, actually, that you can't afford a flat on just one job anymore. Because the people who are paying him like it that way.
Because it is a stupid, terrible idea.
No, but you still haven't said why.
And the same thing happens to be true in terms of the sort of zero-sum thinking that some people have on race in this country.
Okay, oh, this is wonderful. I can't wait to hear this.
It turns out that in a free country, people of all races should do better. But there are some people who don't believe that. People like, for example, Trevor Noah and Princeton professor Ruha Benjamin.
What, they don't think that everybody should do better, or what does that even mean?
Who have now basically come all the way, they've horseshoed around to the racist right, and they are now arguing in favor of segregation.
Really, are they? Can you show us?
Because the races can't get along with one another, according to these geniuses on the left.
I know what your shout means, the same way an Italian knows what an Italian shout means.
Yeah.
Right? And also, I'm prefacing it with a lot because it's a loaded question.
Yes.
But I would love to know if you think integration was the right solution, maybe, on the other side of, you know, what America, of civil rights.
Yeah. No, I don't. And I don't think it's actually that controversial when, if you understand that segregation and integration weren't the only options.
So, like, literally, she's not saying what Ben just said. She's specifically saying that there is more than one option.
Like, those are, within those two options, it may seem like integration is the more progressive. Like, of course, we don't want segregation. But again, when you're being integrated into institutions, into a culture that's a supremacist culture, that's a culture that feeds off of hierarchy, that
Die Erstauflage war also 52. Und wann ist der Autor eigentlich gestorben? Oder lebt er noch? Wenn er noch lebt, dann kommt das überhaupt nicht in Frage, denn dann ist das überhaupt nicht gemeinfrei. Der muss erst also biologisch abdanken.
Feeds off of insecurity, anxiety. Why are we being integrated into that?
Yeah, okay, so, like, literally, she is not saying the thing that Ben was just saying. She is very obviously saying the problem is when you have integration into institutions that are kept the same when they are, you know, and therefore are racist institutions. So she's not saying, let's continue to have segregation, rather obviously. She's saying you need to sort out the institutions.
I mean, this is how pathetic the left has become. Okay, so they're arguing in favor of fixed pie economics, which has been debunked by literally all of human history.
Really? It's been all of human history. That's wow, that's such a great citation. I'm going to look up all of human history.
In every country. And they are arguing...
Oh, in every country, too. Wow.
In favor of sort of a fixed pie with regard to racial reconciliation.
Well, no, where exactly, where is he even getting that? What she said was, you need to change the institutions. It's not enough to just sort of, like, let black people into racist institutions. You need the institutions to stop being racist, too. Like, where's there was no fixed pie. I mean, like, it's like he did not actually watch this, because the argument, I get where he's like, the argument he's trying to make. The talking point here is you know, the usual where right-wingers say, well, if there's equality, that means like white, rich white cishet dudes are gonna do worse, and therefore that's terrible. They should by definition do better or whatever. But she's not saying that. She is very specifically not saying anything about anyone like doing relatively better or worse. The point she's making is a totally different one. It's totally unrelated to that. She may also hold other beliefs, but the ones he's responding to, what he's responding to has nothing to do with what she just said in the fucking clip that he showed. They wouldn't see reason on the fees, I guess.
That the races can't get along. It's a white supremacist system. This is why it is so important that President Trump succeed. Truly.
Why?
Because if these are the two sides, and only one side can win, right? If the left continues to follow the Bill Burr economic populist path.
Wow, yeah, I mean, we are all just in thrall of Bill Burr thought.
And the Trevor Noah, Ruha Benjamin racial path.
I mean, the wild thing about specifically picking Trevor Noah is that, see, he gets a bit of a pass in the U.S. because people do not understand the way the racial hierarchy in South Africa works. So he will, like, say stuff about, like, black South Africans, and people here think that he's referring to a group that includes him. But the thing is, that's not how the fucking apartheid hierarchy worked. He is actually, he is part of a relatively privileged segment of that fucked up hierarchy. So when he slags off, like, black South Africans or says things about how actually it was like justifies the massacre of the Marikana miners or the other fucked up shit that he has occasionally said, he's not, he's not, like, talking about a group of people that he, within South African society, is considered part of. He's talking about one that is actually relative, that he is relatively, like, privileged relative to. That's a lot of uses of the word relative. But, like, not somebody who is, like, fucking a radical anti-racist by any stretch of the imagination. Well, I'll definitely boost your fundraiser again. That sucks. I haven't exactly had a lot of success myself either.
And if that pendulum tends to swing, it is very important that President Trump continue to be successful. It is really
continue to be, like, what do you mean by continue? What is the success that you're comparing it to?
Really, really important, because if he is not successful, if he does not succeed, the alternative is this trash. This ugly.
Well, I mean, the alternative is, like, almost is fairly reasonable.
Immoral trash. Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking point?
Yeah. I can imagine. I am fairly exhausted myself. It has been a fucked up week here. It's just been exhausting. I'm not going to get into it because other people's privacy is involved, but yeah. Okay. We're going to have there's going to be a little short here. There we are. He's apparently the Mighty Morphin Hitler Rangers, the Mighty Maupin Hitler Rangers of Caleb Muppet were up in Minneapolis of all places. And there was an epic failure for woke disruptors.
So we went out. to Minneapolis to do just kind of a routine, small workshop that we do in a number of cities.
Do you believe in growth? Like, wow, that is really a wonderful way to, what the fuck does that even mean?
We've done them before, where we get together, have some classes, get to know different members, different...
Why are we looking up his nostrils?
Friends. Anyhow, we get out there.
Meet Caleb Maupin. He's a cult leader, he's a sexual abuser, he's a neo-fascist. And he's coming over for a visit. Nice, well done, well done. People in Minneapolis.
There, and we see all these crazy signs posted up all over the neighborhood.
Let's not alert the membership as of yet, right? Because they want a reaction. If they see they're getting a reaction, that'll embolden them.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't want to alert the membership because they might be interested in scanning that QR code. Because not all of them know what, not all of them were there for fucking CPI Mark 1.
Right. We'll just be extra careful with security at the door. But honestly, I don't think we should not do the event. No, I think we should do it. I guess we'll just proceed with our meeting as usual. Okay, so the first thing is that the break time is the most important. Right? The break time when we're actually talking to people is the most important time. Right? Actually, when I'm speaking, that's not that important. What's important is...
Yeah, I mean, you know, Caleb, I mean, what he says, that's not at all important.
On Saturday morning, our main concern was the lack of heat. The Airbnb had not turned the heat on, and it was record low temperatures. It was a very, very cold night, so we're inside the house, and we're figuring we can't really start the workshop until...
Like, why does he film it like this?
The heat comes on. So then we see them outside.
Burger King! Burger King! Burger King! Burger King!
They're just saying Burger King.
It is 8:30 in the morning.
And it's like 20 below zero.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, like, good on that. Like, that's not I mean, for some, like, fucking random suburb in DC, I mean, actually, it's like, on the one hand, Burger King, it gets under his skin, but it doesn't actually entirely tell you why, like, people in the neighborhood why they're being woken up at 8:30 on a weekend. So well, maybe they went on further.
Yeah.
Everyone's neighbor's gonna hate them.
The house across the street looks abandoned or dilapidated. I don't think they're worried about fascism. They're worried about putting food on the table.
Well, maybe they should also be worried about fascism. Like...
Worried about getting the heat turned on.
Yes.
Fascism. They're worried about putting food on the table.
Like, that is such an interesting and very telling thing. That she doesn't say they don't, you know, she doesn't say, like, obviously we're not fascists or something like that. She just says, oh, well, they shouldn't be worried about fascism. But if the house is abandoned, then there's just nobody worrying about anything there because there's nobody there. That's what abandoned means.
We're worried about getting the heat turned on.
Yes. It's a little cold here. The heat hasn't been turned on in our Airbnb.
And these guys start preemptively gloating that nobody is showing up.
Are we going to see some footage of nobody not showing up?
No, we expected you, like, turning the attendees away. It's amazing. It seems like no one is coming. Wow.
Not knowing that we literally don't have heat and...
No, I think that actually if they knew that you didn't have heat, they would probably be gloating more, Peter Coffin. Dick Casket.
We're not gonna start the thing without heat. It was actually like a solid hour after they left before we got the heat, and we had people start coming.
It doesn't look
Actually,
like that
I
many.
take that back. There was one gentleman they did get to try to intimidate out of attending, a disabled gentleman, which, you know, that's cool.
Oh, well, you know, if I were going to accuse somebody of intimidating somebody out of attending like that, Peter Coffin, I think what I would do is probably actually show the bit of the footage where they're actually doing that as opposed to just showing the guy walking past.
They shouted at him, "Don't go in there, they'll rape you."
Oh, really? That's the sort of thing that you would like to actually have footage of, if that's true.
He attended though. He was not scared of them.
I've seen you.
Spank fascism.
Can we see what they gave you?
Hello.
Can we see what they gave you?
Morning, this is a cult. Press TV. Oh, wow, it's Dugan.
Press TV.
Oh, man, Linda LaRouche and... Your name's on here, too.
Wait, whose name is on here? Let me see. Mr. Maupin is a former Marxist-Leninist who has, over the years and through his work as a propagandist for Press TV, Russia Today, driven into the weeds of conspiracist neo-fascist ideologies, expelled from his former party, the WWP, for his anti-Semitic conspiracy tract, Satan at the Fountainhead. He is a fellow traveler of such figures as Dugin, anti-Semitic... Wait a second. Because he said... Hang on.
Oh, wow, it's Dugan.
Press TV.
Oh, man, Linda LaRouche and... Your name's on here, too.
Wait, okay. Now, I'm very curious about that. Your name's on here, too. Look at the list of names, chat. We've got Alexander Dugin, we got LaRouche, then we've got neo-Nazi grifter Matt Heimbach, and Shandon Simpson, and Claudio Muti. It's like, so there are... So apparently one of those three neo-Nazis, literal fucking neo-Nazis, is apparently there, because I don't think I think LaRouche is dead. And I don't think Dugin is there. We would have seen footage of fucking Dugin if he was there.
Really?
Yeah.
What? Famous.
Right? You're a failed political candidate and dedicated...
Oh, wait, there's a failed political candidate, too.
Oh, wow, it's Dugan.
Press TV.
Oh, man, Linda LaRouche and... Your name's on here, too.
Really?
Yeah.
What? Famous.
Right? You're a failed political candidate and dedicated follower of Caleb Maupin's.
Oh.
We're inside.
I want to know who the failed political candidate is.
And laughing about it. The whole thing just looked
See, they're just totally laughing because they did get like 4 people in there.
completely insane. At 8:30 in the morning.
Oh, well, I see we've got some link spam. Hello, link spam. Goodbye, link spam.
Record cold temperatures. You have 15 kids out there wearing COVID masks with signs about spanking and fascism.
I wonder why they would have signs about spanking, Caleb.
And cults. I mean, the whole thing just had to look completely insane.
Really, why would it? Like, I mean, if you didn't know anything about this group, and you just hear that there's some outfit having some sort of meeting in your neighborhood that you've never heard of, and people are saying it's a cult run by a fucking sex pest? Oh, yes, it is truly too bad, but Adria will have the VOD. Like, I mean, I don't know that I would immediately dismiss that, not knowing anything else. I think I'd probably want to know more.
What are they saying?
Robin runs the CBI, he's a weird little guy.
He is a weird little guy, though.
The chance that they had, which I absolutely loved, was Caleb owns CPI. He's a weird little guy.
Well, I'm gonna have to like clip that shit because he is a weird little guy. Okay.
They're calling you weird.
Why? I wonder why they would be calling Caleb weird, Dick Casket.
Dancing around with signs that no one understands.
Well, nobody understands it, so you should be fine then. I mean, I think people understand, like, they may not have a sophisticated understanding of fascism, but I think if you are seeing a sign, somebody's holding a placard in front of an event that says "Spank Fascism," you might make the fucking deduction that what's going on in the event is probably something to do with fascism. I don't think that people would have too much difficulty getting that far.
Now, I thought that was very funny.
And by the way, don't you find some of their stuff to just be plain weird?
At one point...
Oh, I mean, what? Who's? Like the CPIs? Yeah. I mean, it's weird as fuck.
Peter Coffin walked out among the protesters. I immediately thought of the scene in the Wizard of Oz where Dorothy wakes up.
Predatory Penny Arcos got your numbers under false pretenses. Who's Penny Arcos? Is that the failed political candidate? Yes, that's the failed political candidate. Failed Republican political candidate. Nee, danke für die Aktualisierung. Okay, so...
And she's walking among the munchkins.
Wait, so the...
Come out wherever you are.
Because they were all, like, really short in comparison to him. And it made...
Wow.
It made me think that the guy on the bullhorn or one of the people that had thought of that chant, they must have been called a weird little guy.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, that's gotta be it. The reason that they thought of calling you a weird little guy was clearly because somebody had called them a weird little guy. And not just because it's you're a weird little guy, motherfucker.
Some point in their life.
Will Rado CPUSA would be a viable force to put together a picket like this it's amazing.
I mean, it's funny. We've seen on this channel, we've watched on the stream, some of the pickets that CPI put together. And this is definitely a bigger picket than we've ever seen CPI put together.
They were on the bullhorn talking about communist inside baseball.
I mean, you started in the RCP, so it's used to call.
Gospels or a joke, even to trots.
No, we're trying to show you we care enough to tell you guys what's going on here. We want you guys to get out of the cult. We're trying to show you...
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that fucking Dick Casket is the missed cabbage of the CPI. Like, I don't think that you're gonna deprogram them.
We carry no. No, we're trying to show you.
See, you can tell that Dick Casket worked on this because it's actually reasonably well edited.
Fair enough to tell you guys what's going on here. We want you guys to get out of the cult.
We are gonna have some fun with them, but we don't want to be too mean to them, because
I'm still waiting for the part where there was an epic failure for the woke disruptors. Well, let me see. Net income glare, million worker march economism, Ron Paul pro-growth populist perspective. It's a perspective, it's not a perspective. And then lumpen, okay.
Because there's a lot of people in this organization around the country, and I'm not going to violate anything.
You know what I haven't heard Caleb talking much about? I've been like watching. Part of why we haven't actually done a Caleb video in a bit is because I was waiting to see, after all this shit about, about how he's retconned this idea of like Trump as a fucking peacemaker or some shit like that. And I was waiting for him to like do something, say something about like Gaza and the West Bank. And he's very much avoided that topic.
Anyone's private business. But more than a handful of people that have joined CPI, they've told me why they joined CPI.
Wait, so out of the people who've joined CPI, only more than a handful have actually given him a reason why?
And they said, Caleb, you know, I was in these communist circles, I was in my 20s, and I was using drugs. I rock bottomed. You know, I screwed up, I did something wrong, and, you know, I had to go into recovery. And I realized that if I was going to get over
okay, wait a second. He's saying that this is actually a common story for the people that he's... who he's recruiting. He is specifically recruiting people. I mean, we know that this is true. We know this from CPI Mark 1 because, like, one of the people that who came forward about being abused by him was somebody who was actually, like, recovering from heroin addiction or something like that. So he's continuing to recruit really vulnerable people, clearly.
my addiction. I couldn't keep thinking in the pessimistic, dark, hopeless way that seems to accompany communist politics in America. I had to be optimistic. And I suddenly started hearing...
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, Caleb Muppet is the optimism guy.
You, and you were the only communist I could stand to listen to anymore.
Wait, I thought you weren't pretending to be a communist anymore.
You were the only one that was putting out a hopeful, optimistic message that wasn't...
Where?
Tearing people down, that wasn't preaching resentment.
Yeah, I mean, he isn't tearing people down. He does, like, claim that basically all leftist YouTubers are CIA plants. But he doesn't tear anybody down.
I believe there were people out there that are in that same category. Do you know what I honestly...
Okay, what's with these trousers of his? Look at this. I mean, they're like jodhpurs.
Believe deep in my soul, I believe that there were people out there today that will eventually join CPI.
I don't. I mean, okay, let me... okay, that's optimism right there. He's very optimistic.
Let me just put...
Like, wow, I mean, so where's the part where was the epic failure? Like, you could count the number of people who were in the room just from listening to that applause. It was like fucking 2 or 3 people, and I...
Put it this way. You can never say that the Center for
Stop showing us your fucking nose hair, dude.
Political Innovation, or myself, or Peter, you can never say that we're irrelevant. The fact...
I mean, you kinda are.
The fact that we had a small meetup was so important to some people that they woke up on Saturday morning, went out in freezing cold temperatures,
and more, I just can't help noticing that more people showed up to the picket than to the fucking meeting.
And made a huge ruckus to tell everyone just how upset they were about the fact that we exist.
You know what would really work? I mean, see, I'm thinking here like a director like Dick Casket is. I mean, and if I were editing this thing together, what I would want to do is a montage of people walking past the picket to show the epic failure. Except it doesn't seem that they have any footage of... They had that one guy. They had that one guy walking past the picket, and that was it, apparently. We only got 43 seconds to go.
Continue to do our work. You know, we were ready to defend ourselves, but...
Hit the wheel.
But they weren't a threat to us at all. They were kind of embarrassing, and they were kind of...
Yeah, almost as embarrassing as, like, you with a fucking baseball bat trying to look tough.
Clowns. And I'm embarrassed for whatever organization let this happen, was involved in making it happen.
See, he's embarrassed. He's embarrassed for them. Caleb is... we're not cringing. Caleb is cringing.
Also embarrassed for the people that did this protest because you were out there making fools out of yourselves.
Really? Is that what they were doing?
What were the overheard words by the Nazi child masturbating in the bathroom?
While we were inside talking about the serious issues and how to change...
Well, then why aren't you, like, showing us the talk about the serious issues? Wait, I mean, look, here we have for comparison, we have Caleb Muppet's fucking CPI picket, and it's 4 people?
the future of our country, how to fight against
So it's an epic failure when you have more people picketing an event than actually went to the event.
imperialism, globalism, how to fight for working families. So yeah, certainly an interesting trip to Minneapolis. I'm glad we were there, and yeah, we're gonna do
I mean, I'm sure Minneapolis is glad that you're not anymore.
a lot more workshops, let me put it that way.
Okay, so wow. That was really I was really kind of hoping that we would eventually get to see the epic failure of the woke disruptors. But I guess maybe that's members only content. Maybe you have to like sign on to his Patreon or let him or spank him or something to get that. Okay. Got another short one. This is some more Ethan Klein bullshit.
Hi again, everyone.
Hello, Ethan.
I'm back with a little update for you guys regarding Hasan. First of all, I want to thank
because like his content nuke went so well.
Everyone for watching the content nuke and enjoying it. And
I don't think we were enjoying it quite the way that it was intended.
I'm glad to see that a lot of people have really resonated with the message.
How about like getting your camera to resonate with the law of the rule of thirds? Why is your head being cut off? Like, why don't you like set up your own fucking camera?
One of those people, unfortunately, is not Hasan Piker, who has continued to spread Hamas propaganda.
Oh, I mean, he's just doing the fucking Daniel Hagari now. Hasan is Hamas.
And even elevated his brazenness.
Wow, we got positive brazenness elevation, chat.
Take for example the tragic story of the Bibas family.
And let's just note that the Bibas family have specifically told the Israeli government to shut the fuck up about them and stop using them for propaganda. They actually banned members of the Israeli cabinet from actually participating in the funeral. They literally...
The dad, 2 kids, and the mom were all taken hostage on October 7th after the grandparents were murdered in their home. The children, 8 months and 3 years old, was kidnapped with their mom, and the dad was kidnapped separately.
And if you actually watch the footage, the mother was, let's just note, she was military. Unit 8200, it's like Israel's military intelligence there, NSA. They actually, if you watch, there's this back and forth between them, because it's like on the one hand, she is a military target. They kind of have to take her. She fits in the parameters. But on the other hand, they don't want to leave these kids behind. They think the kids should be with their mom. And so they go back and forth about it and are very clearly pained about it. And also, incidentally, it wasn't Hamas. It was the Mujahideen brigades who are associated with Fatah. So, but yeah, okay.
Hamas murdered the children and
that's a lie. We've known that's the lie for a very long time, actually. Israel murdered them.
Their mom in captivity.
And, I mean, Israel bombed them. They could have been home in October already. They could have been away for only like 2 days if Israel had agreed to accept them back. Israel did not.
And recently just returned their corpses to Israel. Let's take a look at how Hasan reacted to this tragic update.
As music blares, Hamas fighters carry the coffins.
Yeah, I mean, and notice this. I mean, look, they're in mourning. They're wearing black for the whole thing. They did basically the state funeral. When they put the coffins up there, they are actually behind a curtain. They're not on display.
Of 4 dead Israeli hostages, 2 of them children, the youngest to have been abducted on October the 7th. On stage,
yeah, notice the war criminal Netanyahu and his Nazi army killed them with missiles from Zionist warplanes, which is true. Hello, Emily Watson 1.
Offensive propaganda message blaming
offensive propaganda message?
I mean, it is just an accurate statement.
offensive propaganda message.
Yeah, so he was laughing at the he wasn't laughing at dead children. He was laughing at this fucking presenter claiming that it's offensive to point out who killed them.
Offensive propaganda message?
Hasan has it in his heart somehow to laugh at the coffins of two.
I mean, look, if you're gonna lie, don't show us the thing you're lying about, Ethan. Like, don't show us the thing you're lying about, because then we know you're lying. I kind of figured that was a lie in the title of this video, because that doesn't sound like something that Hasan would do. But we know, yeah, of course he knows this is a lie. He doesn't, I mean, he has been just doing straight up fucking pro-Israel propaganda for ages now.
Slain children at the hands of a violent terrorist organization.
Yeah, namely the Israeli Air Force.
According to the forensic experts, the children were strangled to death.
Okay, the forensic experts. First of all, let's remember they were dead for a year and a half. There is no way to get any kind of fucking forensic off of that. For another thing, Chen Kugel is the guy they're talking about. That's the forensic expert, and he has been on record telling some of the wildest fucking lies. I mean, he claimed to have seen the fucking non-existent beheaded babies. He also said that he couldn't tell the difference between a limb being amputated and being blown off by explosive ordnance. Which, I mean, as a forensic pathologist is kind of a hell of a thing to admit, because, like, that's really kind of a basic thing to not be able to tell the difference between.
Murdered at the hands of Hamas.
I mean, no, I mean, this is just a straight up lie.
Likely because they didn't know how to take care of two young kids in captivity.
I mean, he's like embellishing on the lie.
For 2 years. So instead of taking care of them, they chose to murder them.
The war criminal Netanyahu and his Nazi army killed them with missiles from Zionist warplanes. What are we doing? There is no lie here. This is...
Yeah, I mean, there isn't. This is, in fact, Bibas himself. Yarden Bibas has actually said this himself.
Correct. The fuck?
Hasan wants us to believe that the only thing wrong with this is that they called him a Nazi.
Did he say that was wrong? I mean, honestly, the only thing awkward about calling Netanyahu a Nazi is that he's a Holocaust denier. And so, like, literally, Netanyahu thinks that the Nazis aren't to blame for the Holocaust. He's said this. Actually, that makes him more of a Nazi when thinking about it.
Right? Obviously.
Where did he say that there was anything wrong with that?
It's the way that they're parading around this family of these murdered.
You mean a funeral procession?
Children, these innocent children. Can he really not see the tastelessness in this? The disrespect? Take a look at his chat. It's no better. The truth is offensive. Hamas has the best fits.
To this slain Israeli family, rip bozo.
Is that who that was for?
How do I get that poster? They snapped on that. That mural kicks ass.
Well, so what they're literally pointing out is they're saying, yeah, the mural which points out the facts about this. They're praising it. Nobody's laughing at dead children. They're pointing out that it is ridiculous for the fucking TV presenter in this clip to be pretending that there's anything controversial about what was said there.
Dude, it was a family. Correction. Settlers. Implying that children born in Israel deserve to be slaughtered. Quote.
Really?
Oh, their home? Lol.
I mean, you know, I'm always impressed by, like, the smallest screenshots. Because, I mean, it's literally just one line. It's not clear what's actually in response to.
It is their home. They were born there. Whose home are they in again? Their home? Yes, it's their home.
Well, no, I mean, it is land that fucking the people who live in Gaza, half of them were kicked off of in 1952. And it's kind of worth noting it was 1952 because the thing is, Israel kind of squeaks by on a lot of international law because the most important legal instruments that Israel systematically violates were not enacted until 1949. The Nakba, the initial burst of the Nakba, happened in 1948, conveniently just before that shit happened. Those laws were enacted. But that is not true of the expulsion of the Palestinians from what is now called the Gaza envelope. They were expelled in between 1950 and 1952. So Israel does not have some sort of loophole to get through on those. The Geneva Conventions were in full effect at that time.
They were born there. The mom was an IDF spy. They were not civilians, and they used their kids as human shields. I really don't even know what to say about that one.
Well, then maybe shut the fuck up.
I might call this person schizophrenic, but I'm afraid...
Well, I mean, that's a little bit ableist as fuck.
This is just what happens to your brain when you watch Hasan for too long. Hamas is fucking base, and I'm tired of people pretending they're not. Again, this is just a few examples from the 30s.
Yeah, so it's... That's really, I mean, that's the most damning thing, that it's a few examples out of 30,000 people in his fucking chat.
Seconds preceding Hasan's statement. I'll let...
Mina mnogo vreme brez 10 godini otkak to piše na bolgarski. Ne iskam da mislja, че Efan Klein običan Netanyahu, no je возможно. Da. Da, je возможно.
The chat run for you at the end of the video, and you can take your time to read through it to see.
So you're saying that you went through the chat, this extremely fast, how is anyone following that? And you found 2 or 3 people who said things that you found objectionable. Notice here's, look, Lord Lycanthrope 85 says, the respect shown to the bodies. Respect.
See just how vile it is. You'll notice that there is overwhelming support for the propaganda for Hamas.
Well, you showed 3 people, and again, I mean, we're just talking about facts. Facts that it's worth noting, Yarden Bibas has gone on record confirming.
And zero respect shown for the dead children.
I mean, in that fucking freeze frame he just showed us, there was somebody saying how commendable it was, the respect with which the bodies were being treated. You'll notice that the people carrying them are not... Normally, if you watch these things, I've seen a few of them, they're wearing camouflage uniforms. They're standard, combat battle dress uniforms. And in this one, they're wearing black. They're wearing black because they were... I mean, essentially, they were doing the, half of a funeral, basically. And they wanted to show the proper decorum, at the same time as also acknowledging who actually murdered them. Which, I mean...
Notice here, however, that one person says, defended Hasan.
Defend what, Hasan? What does that even mean? Defend it. Defend what?
Watch how quickly this gets moderated out of his chat.
Yeah, including Guardian, BBC, and other Western...
There it is. It's gone.
I didn't see that.
Including Guardian, BBC, and other Western...
Well, what does that even mean, defend it? Yes, I actually said hello to her.
There it is. It's gone. Hasan claims he has no control over how his chat is moderated, apparently. Yet, 90% of it is people celebrating the death of these kids. And the one...
then why is nobody showing any... Why do you just not want your video to be interesting and credible, Ethan? Why don't you just show us somebody celebrating the death of the kids?
person that has even the slightest bit of pushback is immediately.
I don't even see how that's pushback. It's not clear what the hell that even meant. Defend it, Hasan. Like, is that pushback? I mean, and what is it pushback on? I don't even understand the phrase.
Moderated. After laughing over the corpses of slain children, Hasan continues to guzzle Hamas propaganda, and this reaction that I can only describe as nauseating. Take a look.
Now let's take a look at how the hostages were released. I wonder if Western media will actually show the release videos, because there was some interesting sites that were disconcerting for the Israeli state and their project overall. But let's see.
Omer was a...
Oh, yeah. And what you need to know is the guy's family commented on this in the Israeli press, and they said, yeah, that's just what he's like. He just loves everybody. He's just, really kind of joyful guy who is just sweet to everybody.
Among 6 released by Hamas in Gaza this morning.
I mean, look at him. He's just grinning.
Living hostages to be returned in this ceasefire's first phase. The 22-year-old was paraded on stage. He'd been kidnapped.
Yeah, so he, kissed the guy on the forehead. Now, if you haven't seen these, if you haven't been watching these regularly, I have. I watch Al Jazeera Arabic, and sometimes it turns out that there's one going on, and I've kind of paid attention to them because it's interesting to see how they go. It's interesting to see how the captives are reacting, and the way they do this stage design and stuff like that. Also, the EI live stream does a lot of analysis on these. But anyway, what you notice if you pay attention is that the emotional reactions of these people who are being released really run the gamut. You have some people who are raising their hand, a fist in weary triumph. You have some people who are actually showing affection to the Qassam Brigade's fighters that they're with. You have some people who won't even look them in the eye and just look absolutely fucking wretched because, why wouldn't they? They've been through hell. Even if they were treated, 100%, even if they were treated wonderfully, it's still a fucking hellish situation they've been through. And so why wouldn't they be? So, yeah. The idea... I've heard that somebody was telling him to do this. First of all, his family didn't see it that way. His family said that this is just what he's like. If there was anyone who would kiss a Qassam Brigade's fighter on television, it would be him. And nobody, this is the only time I've ever seen that particular, that sort of a display. So the idea that they were, instructing him to do it seems just weird, because why wouldn't they tell everyone to? They clearly, and aside from that, what, hold would they even have at this point? The Red Cross, the ICRC are right there. It's all on camera. Literally, he could, if somebody wanted to just say, Abu Obeida can fuck off, what would they say? What would they do? They're not going to stop this thing and jeopardize the ceasefire and do it all in front of rolling cameras because somebody says something that they don't like. So, to me, it reads as natural, and his facial expression does not look forced in any way.
From a music festival, and yet remarkably, he kissed 2 of the men who had been...
Yeah, look at that. None of them... Notice... Okay, watch this again, because I want to be sure of what I'm saying here.
And yet, remarkably, he kissed 2 of the men who...
Yeah, look, he sticks his arm out first.
Had been...
The guy is not, he's, beckoning the guy over there. He clearly took the initiative there. If they wanted everybody to fucking kiss them, they could have, that we would have seen this before. This is specifically remarkable because this hasn't happened again. Аз не попаднах на този видеоклип. Много интересно. Да, това е интересно. Yeah, I mean, it looks like... I mean, that's... like, the times that there have been people who have shown, like, affection in one way or another, or, like, signs of camaraderie, it has looked 100% legit, and part of what makes it look that way is that there are people who have not, shown... There have been people in there who have just not wanted to even look them in the eyes, who just, look wretched and wanting to just beat the fuck over with it. Which, I mean... Of course, I mean, most, like, what, I don't think there is, for what any of the people here have gone, in this frame, have gone through, in the 15 months of just fucking mass slaughter, and for these people who were taken captive, also the realization that the government that they, have been told, there's people talk about this in op-ed pages on, like, the Israeli press, about how, there was sort of this social compact that supposedly existed in Zionist society where Jewish lives mattered to Israel. Not anyone else's so much, but that, like, they would actually really put in if something, if there were Jews in danger, they would go and help out. And, if you got captured or something like that, the, flip side of your, like, military service is that they would make sure you got back safe. And people believed that. And these people have realized in the most traumatic possible way what a complete fucking lie that turns out to be. Because there were so many opportunities at which they could have been returned, and they weren't. So, I mean, like, any fucking... There's no emotion, there's no, like, specific emotional reaction you could say is in any way unnatural in that situation, because what the fuck even is that situation? Every single thing about this is, like, something that, like, how would you even know how you would react, because it's just unimaginable. The shit everybody's been through. And I mean everybody in frame. They've all been through fucking unimaginable shit.
I hope he said no homo after, bro. Straight up. Hey, Hasan, please give us your take. I mean, it's the same as the dudes who fucking dapped up the Hamas dudes. The dudes who dapped them up in the first ceasefire, do you not remember? And everybody freaked the fuck out about it. And they were like,
yeah, I mean, there were a bunch during that first, the humanitarian pause. It wasn't just, what does it mean to dap somebody up, chat? I think I'm showing my age or possibly regionality. I've never heard of up-dapping. But, I mean, yeah, there were a number of them where people were, like, shaking hands, where people were, like, just genuinely smiling, and there were hugs and stuff like that, I remember seeing, and there were other people who weren't doing those things. And I said the exact same thing that I said, then that I said now, namely that part of what tells me that all of these are legitimate, natural, genuine reactions is precisely their diversity.
Like, oh, they must be drugged. Hamas is giving them drugs.
Yeah, that is what the fucking Israeli press said.
Dabbing them up. Hamas gave them the drugs that make you dab up Hamas.
Yeah, and then this time they're like, the reason they look so well fed is that Hamas has some sort of magic malnutrition reversal device. And nobody asked why it is that Israel doesn't use it on the people they're releasing, who all look like they just got out of fucking Dachau.
It turns out that there is a new, even scarier drug out there that Hamas has in their hands. It's called the drug that makes you kiss Hamas.
Yeah. Oh, Ethan must be so apoplectic about this. But alas, it is time for me to wrap up. Have a good night. I'm glad to see you all. I hope you enjoyed the stream. And I will be back tomorrow, probably at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. As I've said, there's a complicated situation going on around here. And that second one isn't even forehead. That is like scalp kisses. That is top of head. But, so, I may be late, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff up in the air at the moment, but I expect to be here at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, and I hope to see you then, too. Have a good night. Mnogo blagodaria. Daria.